Ladies and gentlemen, I know that we've all been there. I know that you've been there. We've all been in a situation where WWE has been so bad, so terrible, that you've considered never watching another episode of Raw or SmackDown ever again. And in some cases, you really did stop watching WWE altogether. And that's what today's video is all about, because I asked you over on X, what were the moments in WWE that made you almost, or actually did make you stop watching the product altogether? I've gathered a whole bunch of your answers, and now we're gonna go through your trauma and analyze it. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I'm incredibly confident that you're gonna fall in love with his YouTube channel, because we always upload daily wrestling content. We sometimes do these types of videos, by the way, where we just sort of gauge your opinion on things, so make sure that you're following me on X if you want to be part of those in the future. All right, that's enough. Let's jump into things. CM Punk's departure in 2014. The pipe bomb and championship reign kept me around during the PG Super Cena era. I think that this will always be the #1 reason why a wrestling fan stops watching wrestling. Either their favorite leaves the company that they're watching, or they retire from wrestling altogether. I can't tell you how many people I've met throughout my lifetime that have told me that they stopped watching wrestling simply because Stone Cold Steve Austin was no longer part of the world of professional wrestling. So this is a pretty common thing. On top of that, I completely vibe with what you're saying, especially with the whole CM Punk PG era, because he was the reason why I didn't stop watching, because the pipe bomb was so good. His character was great. I loved his matches. CM Punk is the reason why I didn't stop watching back in 2011, and the reason why I'm still a wrestling fan today. It's the reason why I adore CM Punk as a professional wrestler as much as I do. But yeah, him leaving in 2014 was such a weird time, because I was like, okay, I guess he'll be back probably for like WrestleMania 30 season, and then he didn't come back, and then he didn't come back for WrestleMania 31, and then 32, and then I finally kind of came to the realization that we were never going to get CM Punk, and then he comes back like 10 years later at Survivor Series, and here we are, we have CM Punk back in our WWE lives. But yeah, I get it. If you tell me that, you know, if Cody Rhodes is your ultimate favorite, if he were to retire and leave for Hollywood, for example, and you were to stop watching, I think I'd totally understand where you're coming from. Now, with me, as old as I am, and with how much I've been watching wrestling and the fact that this is my job, I don't think that there's that one guy or girl that if they were to leave the business, that I would leave with them. I think I'm past that now, but I totally get where people are coming from here. I bring this matchup way too often, but that's how bad this was. Hell in a Cell, Seth Rollins versus The Fiend. There's a reason why this match is highly regarded as one of the worst matches in 2019. A referee stoppage inside a Hell in a Cell has to be one of the most egregious things in WWE history. It ruined Bray, and Seth knows it too. I think that you could basically make this video just about 2019. In fact, I kind of want to make a video explaining how bad 2019 WWE really was. Hell, it was so bad that it needed the birth of AEW in that year to really make WWE come to the realization as to how bad of a product they've become. But this right here, to me, this is the height of 2019 debauchery. This was awful. You're right. A referee stoppage in a Hell in a Cell. What is that? I think more than anything, the reason why I hate this, and yes, this absolutely ruined the Fiend character, one of the coolest things going on in the WWE at the time, is that it made us fans feel stupid. It made us insulted. It took our intelligence and said, we don't care about it. They spit on it, threw it on the ground, and stepped on it. This was, to me, when Vince McMahon started just going loony and just booking some of the dumbest, most awful professional wrestling that I've ever seen. And to me, the stoppage inside Hell in a Cell is one of the dumbest things that I've ever seen in anything. Stopped watching around 2016. All of my faves were gone, and the show was just not exciting. It was almost like watching a 4Kids version of Kill Bill. Picked it back up at the Royal Rumble 2023. Well, first of all, I'm glad that you picked it back up, because things have definitely gotten significantly better since 2016. 2016 did have, you know, a standout moment with how good SmackDown Live was there for a little bit in 2016. But yeah, the 2010s for the most part is a really rough era. And I think that this is just a pretty normal transition out of professional wrestling. Hey, this thing that I'm watching is just boring now. This doesn't vibe with me anymore. See you later. I'll come back when it does. And this is what Michael did. All right, I'm just gonna say it again because I haven't changed my mind. These are hands down the greatest socks that I've ever worn. And I'm so happy to be partnering with Bombas to tell you why they are my new kind of sock obsession. Because these just aren't any socks. They have built-in arch support, no toe seams, and they actually stay up all day. Bombas socks have become my personal go-to for lounging around the house, but also going to the gym. Even Dwayne the Dog Johnson can't get enough of Bombas socks. And with Bombas, it's not just socks. Their t-shirts are buttery smooth, and their underwear, you're gonna forget that you're even wearing them. I've gifted Bombas to both my family and friends, and anyone that gets a pair of these socks is always converted. But what I love about Bombas is that they are purpose-driven, because for every item that you buy, they donate one to somebody that's experiencing homelessness. So far, they've donated over 150 million items. By the way, if you're on the fence, just keep in mind that they do have a 100% happiness guarantee, so that you can buy whatever item you want from Bombas with peace of mind. And right now, new customers are getting 20% off. Just go over to bombas.com/SantiZap and use code SantiZap at checkout. So make sure that you feel good and do good with Bombas. Your feet will thank you, and so will someone else. Thank you very much to Bombas for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get you back to the wrestling that you came for. Bit of a strange one, but when Ambrose/Mox left WWE, the way he was booked at the end was just the final straw for how much I could take of WWE's poor booking decisions. And it was even better when he went to AEW and we got to see what a well-booked Dean Ambrose/Jon Moxley could actually be and what he would ultimately become. It was clear that he made the correct choice to leave the WWE, who were booking him into oblivion, going out wearing a gas mask because he doesn't want to get sick from the stench of the people in the arena getting vaccinated. Like, what were they doing with him? Again, man, 2018, 2019, it was a rough time to be a wrestling fan. If you just happen to be new and from 2022 on, trust me, you don't know what bad WWE looks like. Travis Scott interfering with the WrestleMania main event made me stop watching for a good while. I only kept up with your reactions, but other than that, I didn't watch anything live or on YouTube. That's the most recent event that almost made me stop completely. You and dozens of people wrote in about Travis Scott and his involvement in the WrestleMania 41 main event, and of course, I understand. It was one of the worst things that I've seen as a professional wrestling fan in terms of booking. Like, how can you end your WrestleMania main event that way? How can you attach this non-wrestling entity in Travis Scott to one of the biggest moments in professional wrestling history, John Cena winning 17? It was just bad choice after bad choice after bad choice, and it made what was already a pretty dull match an egregious and a terrible main event. And WrestleMania 41 isn't that bad. I really think that there's a lot to like from WrestleMania 41, but it just ended so poorly that it left such a sour taste in our mouths that so many people look back at WrestleMania 41 as a bad WrestleMania when it's just not the case. I think that I may have fallen under the camp of maybe giving myself a break from WWE because of the Travis Scott thing and how WrestleMania 41 ended, had this not been my job, because this was really fucking bad. What a mistake this was. One of the biggest shows of the year, and they managed to mess up both Rumbles. Talk about tone deaf. I do not understand this decision. Again, this is prime Vince McMahon loony bin behavior right here, making both Brock Lesnar and Ronda Rousey the Royal Rumble winners in the same year was just terrible. First of all, nobody wanted Ronda Rousey to win. And second of all, Brock Lesnar went into that Royal Rumble as the WWE champion. He loses it, then goes to the Rumble and wins the Rumble, and then he wins the WWE title a little bit later before WrestleMania and goes into WrestleMania as the champion anyway. So why would you have him win the Rumble in the fucking first place? I hate the 2022 Royal Rumble. I genuinely believe that this is the worst Rumble of all time. At the very least, it had Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins. That was a great match. It did end in a disqualification, but at least it was awesome. Need I say more? I think this was bad, but I don't think it's like that terrible. The match was actually pretty solid. Roman Reigns versus the Demon Finn Balor. Yes, of course, we had the whole moment with the Demon getting brought back to life with the heart palpitations and the red lighting. Yeah, that was a little bit cringe. And then the ropes breaking right before he hits a coup de grace. How convenient. Thank you, God, for helping the tribal chief. I thought this was bad, but I wouldn't say that this was so bad where I would stop watching. The Lana and Bobby Lashley 2019 storyline. Hey, 2019 strikes again. I think you could probably add not just like this, but anything that's like super cringe is a good reason to like turn off the product. Like, I remember various moments as a kid where I'm like, I don't want anybody to know that I watch this. I'm just going to go ahead and turn this off until this is over. I'm predominantly looking at the Katie Vick segment when I was like 8 years old. One word: pandemic. Look, I appreciated WWE for being able to stick around, for being able to still provide weekly programming. They didn't miss a beat. There were still every episode of Raw, every episode of SmackDown. PLEs were still going on in a time where nothing else was happening. The NBA shut down, all the other sports organizations shut down. There wasn't any new TV shows happening because they couldn't film. Movies were slow to come out as well for the same reason, but yet somehow WWE kept chugging along. But it did feel like a lifeless version of itself when it doesn't have fans. This to me proved the thesis that fans really are what make professional wrestling what it is, because not having anyone in attendance completely killed the show. Like, you could have a fantastic match, and they did have some great matches in the pandemic, but not having people there to witness it and ooh and ah over it, it completely mutes the product for me, in my opinion. I also did not watch like regularly during the pandemic. You got to remember, I didn't do this as a job back then, but there were just some times where I'm like, man, I can't sit through 3 hours of Raw without fans. So what I would do is just watch the YouTube recaps in the morning of, just so that I can get through it quickly, but still be up to date with storylines. It's not like I quit entirely, but I definitely lost the ability to be able to watch full shows from beginning to end. Honestly, for me, it was all of the releases in 2021, mainly Bray. It just felt really scummy to do this in the pandemic, and this was the second or third time it happened over that period. It made me flip over to AEW for a while. Yeah, these releases really stacked up AEW, huh? They really gobbled up a ton of the names that were released during this time and helped build the flourishing wrestling organization that it ultimately became. Here's the thing, I'm never going to demonize WWE for this in particular, because I mean, I was literally part of a company that released people. Like, this was just a thing that was happening, not just in WWE, but literally the world. Like, the world stopped operating and companies left, right, and center were laying off employees. Dude, I got laid off 3 times in the span of 12 months. Not because the company that I worked for was evil, but because the company that I worked for couldn't afford me. So it was a pretty common practice around the world. It's still, as fans, it sucks to see this happen because there were so many names that you were just so excited to see that never even really got a chance. Like, to me, like Bray Wyatt is such a major example, but Keith Lee to me is one that really broke my soul, because I loved Keith Lee in his NXT Black and Gold days, and to not really see him get the opportunity to flourish on the main roster and then getting released really hurt me. I started fully watching wrestling in 2017, so there have been a lot of things that almost made me stop watching wrestling. But the one moment that comes to mind is what happened to Roman in 2020 with dog food being poured on him during that feud with Baron Corbin. Dude, honestly, if I can be a little bit more blunt, just pretty much anything to do with Baron Corbin from like 2018 to like 2021, like almost always made me want to flip the channel. It was never like, oh, look at what a bad guy he is. It was like, go away. I don't want to watch the product while you're on screen right now. And this to me was the apex of Baron Corbin ruining programming for me. I like Baron Corbin as a performer now, by the way, but like this was just a rough time for Baron Corbin, in my opinion. But we go back to that conversation about it being just so cringe that you're just embarrassed to be watching what is on your screen right now. And to me, it's not as bad, but this is like that new generation's version of Katie Vick, because yeah, dude, if somebody walks in the room while this is happening, I'm embarrassed. I'm turning this off. Raw after WrestleMania 39 and the news of Vince's temporary return. I came back to watch WWE when Triple H took over, and it felt like the future was bright. Then Vince came back for a short while and booked this episode, and I thought things were going downhill again. Oh, brother, I remember this like it was yesterday. And if I was just like a regular fan that didn't make talking about WWE their job, I definitely would have taken a break from WWE at the very least for like a month, maybe a PLE cycle after this, because this fucking sucked. Listen, there was so much momentum coming off the back of WrestleMania 39 because Triple H took over. It felt like we were in a new era of professional wrestling. Vince McMahon was out of the picture since SummerSlam 2022, and things just kept getting better and better and better. And then WrestleMania 39 happened, and we're like, wow, what a great show. And then Vince McMahon is announced to have returned, and then he books this show, and it goes right back down to 2019 levels of bad. Funny enough, like I'm kind of grateful that this happened in the long run, because it really showed the world just how bad Vince McMahon became at booking professional wrestling. Because it was like, here was Triple H. Okay, you forgot what Vince McMahon is like. Let me give you a taste of it. Oh God, it tastes like ass. That is the worst Raw after WrestleMania of all time. Like genuinely, maybe not the worst, one of the worst Raw after WrestleManias of all time. And listen, Raw after WrestleMania is so important. It's like a reset button. So if you fail, if you fumble Raw after WrestleMania, it's very easy to lose fans until they decide to come back for SummerSlam. There's a lot of casual fans that just sort of come back for the big shows. And after WrestleMania, take it from somebody that deals with YouTube analytics and views. Like we wrestling content creators, we lose a lot of views after WrestleMania because a lot of fans start to take a break from professional wrestling. But like if you deliver a great Raw after WrestleMania, then you can keep a bunch of them around. If you deliver something like this metric butt ton of ass juice, you're going to lose a lot of them until the next big show. I simply stopped watching. It wasn't bad storylines or bad booking. It wasn't terrible matches or awful gimmicks or an overall lack of interest or enthusiasm. I just stopped watching. I just don't care anymore. Simple as simple can be. Damn, dude. I mean, that's about as real as it gets. Like, I feel like, what can I even say to this? I can't tell you how many times I've stopped watching something just simply because I stopped, not because I stopped liking it, just simply because I maybe missed an episode of something and then I'm like, I'm good. I think I've moved on from this phase in my life. The deal with ESPN for PLEs is making me question how much I will be watching beyond this year, but that's what VPNs are for, right? I love how now we're using like future ones, like, hey, this will be the reason why I stopped watching wrestling. But hey, listen, for a lot of people, this could be the reason. Like for you, maybe $30 a month for PLEs isn't a lot, but it can be to some people. It could be the make or break. It can definitely be the make or break for like kids that are getting into wrestling, because now they gotta, please, mom, can I please have this Fastlane pay-per-view to stay up to date with my professional wrestling fandom? It won't be as simple as just turning on Peacock and doing that. There will be families that will have to pick and choose what subscription services they subscribe to, because things are starting to add up between ESPN, Netflix, channel subscriptions to get the USA Network, and the CW channel. Like, becoming a wrestling fan for some people is going to become, unfortunately, unaffordable. And that is just a logistical issue that's going to prevent people from becoming lifelong wrestling fans, sadly. Oh God, Santina Morella. Yeah, like I looked at your page, Diva Crave, and you celebrate women's professional wrestling. And if you are somebody that loves women's professional wrestling, yeah, this is awful. This is terrible. This was a battle royal to determine Miss WrestleMania at WrestleMania 25, and the best woman to have you choose to win this is Santino Marella. Like, dude, women's wrestling was down in the dumps. They decided to go with the comedy act of Santino Marella over an actual woman winning a women's battle royal. Come on, what are we doing? Triple H and his reign of terror that started with Eric Bischoff handing him the big gold in a briefcase came back when Punk showed up. So this was in the height of the Ruthless Aggression era when I was a kid, and dude, you don't know the frustration that I had as a kid, where every show would just somehow end with Triple H weaseling out of a victory, winning championship feuds that he had no business retaining in, and just refusing to lose. It was so painful. But hey, listen, as a kid, I didn't really know any better. And maybe that's for the good, right? It's for, sometimes ignorance is bliss. Easy. Brock Lesnar winning Money in the Bank in 2019. One of the worst decisions I can remember. It was the most that I could tolerate, although I came back in 2023. So I'm starting to notice two things here. All right. One, we're getting a lot of 2019, and two, we're getting a lot of Brock Lesnar. You realize now why I'm not particularly jazzed about Brock Lesnar returning? Because there's been so many awful things with Brock Lesnar in WWE booking over the last 15 years, and this is absolutely one of them. Sure, Party Brock with the boombox briefcase was a lot of fun for a week, but then why are we giving Brock Lesnar, a guy that was perennially in the main event scene, who would just fart and get a championship opportunity and then disappear for 7 months with the title? Why is he winning the Money in the Bank briefcase? One of the most fun plot devices that can be used to give us a new face within the main event scene, even if it is just temporarily, to a guy that was already the main event scene. Terrible. When NXT went all Nickelodeon, Black and Gold NXT was really the only thing keeping my interest in wrestling alive in 2019 through 2021. Then he happened. Yeah, NXT 2.0 is the reason I stopped watching NXT, although there's been a lot of people that have come out and said, hey, NXT 2.0 wasn't that bad. I don't know, man. Like, I felt like it lost all all of its identity. It lost so many of the names that I cared and loved for and got attached to during the NXT Black and Gold era. They got rid of takeovers. It wasn't the same. NXT 2.0 killed NXT for me. It's the reason why I stopped watching NXT. Luckily, I came back in early 2023 to watch NXT, and I've never looked back since because it's been so good. Goldberg beating The Fiend. Yeah, we go back to earlier in the video, right? Like destroying The Fiend in that Hell in a Cell, how that ruined The Fiend. There was no coming back from this. Like, genuinely, this was what was the nail in the coffin for The Fiend character. And it was like WWE was doing everything in their power to ruin one of the coolest things that they had come up with. Well, I guess Bray Wyatt really was the mastermind behind it, but they were doing everything in their power to kill one of the coolest creative things happening on their platform at the moment. It was insane. Like, why are we making these decisions? It's decisions like these that made people also turn really sour on the Saudi Arabian shows. Again, if you got into wrestling, in its boom in 2023, 2022, Saudi shows have now been pretty solid for the most part, but there was a time where if there was a Saudi show, it was going to be the worst show of the year, and this was a prime example as to why. Everything about how they were pushing Roman in 2014 to 2016, but that Royal Rumble win had me checked out for months. Dude, me too. I was checked out during this Roman push, and not in the sense where I was gone completely, but kind of more similar to the pandemic era where I wasn't watching Raw and SmackDowns in its entirety. Instead, I would watch the highlights on YouTube because the Roman Reigns push just was not working for me. And I'm so glad that I wasn't the only one feeling this way, because you can just go back to him winning the Rumble this year, even with The Rock, he couldn't even buy a single cheer. It was insane how down your throat Roman Reigns was being pushed. And yeah, that was enough to turn me off a little bit, but also it turned off people completely from the product at the time. The Rock almost taking Cody's WrestleMania 40 spot. I started watching wrestling again after a 4-year hiatus because of both Cody Rhodes and Sami's road to WrestleMania 39. After seeing Cody working his way back up and ending up getting his earned second chance taken away really pissed me off. Yeah, this was a near miss, right? Like this could have been a cataclysmic event for many wrestling fans to have The Rock just sort of come back and swoop the championship opportunity from the Royal Rumble winner right from under them. Cool, Roman versus The Rock, huge match, but like that would have once again been a slap in the face, a spit in your shoes type of moment from WWE to fans. I'm glad they didn't go through with it. Again, this was a near miss here. Seeing my favorite wrestler of all time have one of the greatest title wins in history was such a high just for it to end like this. Kofi losing to Brock definitely made me almost stop watching. The only reason I didn't was because at least Kofi was still on TV. And we have another Brock Lesnar one. Again, are you starting to see why I don't particularly love the return of Brock Lesnar? I hope maybe this opens some of your eyes, all right? Yeah, cool. Music of Brock Lesnar, huge pop at SummerSlam, but now that maybe some of the excitement of his return has waned away and you're watching this video, maybe you can come back down to earth and remember that it's so much of Brock Lesnar's booking and the things that were delivered with Brock Lesnar were just awful. And come on, what are we doing? 5 seconds? You bury your champion in 5 seconds to Brock Lesnar? What, to hype up a match against Cain Velasquez at a Saudi show? Why? It's like they were paying Brock Lesnar by the minute and they just needed him in and out so that they didn't have to pay his full rate. I don't understand why they would have the champion who had held from WrestleMania up until that point like a good amount of time as champion. And he was an entertaining champion, not the greatest champion of all time, but an entertaining champion nonetheless, who had an amazing road to that championship. And then just to have him be eaten alive in 5 seconds by Brock Lesnar is just bananas. As a very young John Cena fan at this time, I remember being super upset and almost to tears after Punk did this. I told my mom to throw all my action figures away and that I didn't want to watch wrestling anymore. Brother, this is too real. This is adorable. I'm glad you shared this because all of these have been, us being marks, sharing all of our mark traumas. But this is about as real as it gets. Just good old childhood trauma, baby. I thought I was about to witness a 6-star classic, but instead I got one of the most disappointing Mania matches ever, in my opinion. Made me completely check out until Kofi Mania, and Becky pulled me back the following year. This was one of those matches that made me kind of temper my expectation on things because I was in the exact same boat as you. I thought we were going to have the greatest match in WrestleMania history. AJ Styles was putting on bangers. Nakamura was a recent call from NXT who was putting on bangers in NXT, and these guys had already put on a certified fresh classic before in New Japan. It should have been perfect. Nothing could have ruined this, and then it just didn't live up to the expectation. It made me feel like I put my eggs in the wrong basket seeing how poor this match ultimately was. It certainly didn't kill wrestling for me, but it definitely killed a lot of the vibe of this WrestleMania, because to me, much of this WrestleMania was hanging on me believing that AJ versus Shinsuke was going to be a generational match, and it wasn't. This right here, not only because he lost, but because it was Brock that didn't need it. Oh, look at that. Another Brock Lesnar entry. Are you starting to get the point here? Yeah, a lot of people wrote in about the ending of the streak. This certainly didn't really do much for me. It did sort of feel anticlimactic at the end of it all, considering how good so many of the matches were before that Brock Lesnar match, and to have it end in what was a pretty boring match to a guy that I didn't particularly love did suck, but it certainly wasn't a reason for me to turn off wrestling. On top of that, I feel like they made it up later in the show with Daniel Bryan conquering the Authority and the Miracle on Bourbon Street. All the dancing and other kid-friendly segments around 2011-2013 era, I was an early teenager, so I stopped watching because it was too cringe at the time. We talked about cringe, and you unfortunately unlocked the memory of Lord Tensai dancing with the Funkadactyls and the feud between him and the Funkasaurus. Yeah, this was dog shit. I stopped watching for a couple years when Kane first unmasked. I was about 7 years old and it freaked me out. Dude, this was horrifying. I also witnessed this as a young, impressionable child. I think I was 10 years old during the Kane unmasking. And yes, this was horrifying. Feels like a common one I've seen, but the death of Eddie Guerrero, as a kid, he was my superhero. I got back into wrestling when the iconic WrestleMania 40 buildup happened with The Rock coming back. Wow, okay, yeah, you really did fall off there for a long time. Eddie is one of my all-time favorite wrestlers. In that Ruthless Aggression era, he was like one of the guys that I just gravitated to. I latched on to Eddie, and I never looked back. So when Eddie did pass away, it didn't take long for me to not watch wrestling anymore. A lot of people know that I went through this hiatus from about like 2006 to about 2011, where I really wasn't paying much attention to professional wrestling, and it unfortunately started with the passing of Eddie Guerrero because I lost one of my favorites. Really contemplated it, man. Now that we're towards the end of the video, you can now see all of the Brock Lesnar isms that people hated. Maybe this has been a nice thought exercise to remind the world that the return of Brock Lesnar isn't going to be all just peaches and rainbows. All right, folks, thank you so much for watching this episode. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care. Goodbye. Get out of here.